Genjutsu is one of the most terrifying tools in all of anime, not because it overpowers you physically, but because it turns your own mind into a battlefield. Hallucinations, sensory loops, and even emotional manipulation can all be crafted with a single glance in the Naruto universe. However, when it comes to fantasy stories and their power systems, each follow different internal rules, which leads to all sorts of contention when it comes to how established power systems function in cross-verse matchups, which is especially the case when it comes to Genjutsu. You see, Genjutsu is often argued to be sort of a checkmate ability. Once it's used, the fight is over, or at least, that's how many people interpret it, while others believe the ability is useless altogether outside its own verse. That's why in today's video, we'll be exploring the fundamentals of the ability, how it's applied, and whether characters from other universes are simply helpless victims to its insane effects, or if they're completely immune to Genjutsu as a whole. Also, please do keep in mind that this is my own personal opinion based on hours of research, so even if you disagree with my verdict, by the end of the video, you'll at least come to the realization that how I came to this conclusion is pretty reasonable. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Now, the first question we need to answer is, what exactly is Genjutsu? Genjutsu, which literally translates to illusionary techniques, is one of the three main categories of jutsu in the Naruto universe. Unlike ninjutsu and taijutsu, which focus on physical techniques or raw force, Genjutsu specializes in illusions used to incapacitate or manipulate a target's mind and senses. As stated by Jiraiya, Genjutsu works by controlling the chakra that flows through an opponent's cranial nerves in order to manipulate their five senses, effectively placing them in a state of hypnosis. This is extremely important because Jiraiya's statement directly establishes that Genjutsu relies on the presence of chakra within a target's nervous system. If a target doesn't have chakra, Genjutsu, at least in its standard form, simply cannot function, which many argue should directly answer the main question of the video. However, with that said, many Naruto fans argue that Jiraiya's statement only applies to quote-unquote normal Genjutsu, and that Sharingan and Mangekyo level illusions function differently. The most common arguments used to support this idea come down to three main examples. 1. A statement from the Itachi Shinden novel, which claims Mangekyo Sharingan users can inject their chakra into a target's nervous system, allowing them to control it far faster than through traditional Genjutsu. 2. Sasuke placing Manda, a sage creature said to predate the Divine Tree and the introduction of chakra under Sharingan Genjutsu. And 3. Itachi hypnotizing a non-shinobi woman in order to distract Jiraiya. Let's begin with the most commonly cited argument, the Itachi Shinden novel statement. Now, I've actually referenced this statement myself in past videos, but after reflecting on it and rereading the statement dozens of times, I've come to the conclusion that all it's really saying is that Mangekyo users can pour their chakra into a person's chakra network in order to control them faster than normal Genjutsu, which anatomically necessitates that the target have a pre-existing chakra network. And while you could argue that if a Mangekyo user is injecting their own chakra into a target, it shouldn't matter whether that target has a chakra network or not. However, the reality is that Genjutsu on a biological level functions through chakra pathways that are intrinsically tied to the organs responsible for sensory input. So if a target doesn't have a chakra network, which is the case for everyone outside the Naruto universe, then there's simply nowhere for that chakra to flow, and thus no medium through which Genjutsu can override their senses. This same logic applies to the second instance I mentioned, which is the scene where Itachi places a civilian woman under a Genjutsu to distract Jiraiya. Some people claim that because this woman is a non-shinobi, that she wouldn't be needing chakra and therefore Genjutsu shouldn't work on her, but that completely misunderstands how chakra works in Naruto. Even if someone isn't actively using or needing chakra, every living being in the Naruto universe has some baseline amount of it, because chakra at its core is simply a combination of physical and spiritual energy that flows naturally through the body. And it only becomes ninjutsu chakra, the type of chakra that people are most aware of, when those energies are purposely combined and shaped into a technique. So yes, the woman had chakra flowing through her body, which is exactly why Itachi's Genjutsu worked on her. This then brings us to our third and most debated case, Sasuke being able to place Manda, a sage creature, under Genjutsu. Now, a month ago, I might have agreed with the argument that this proves Genjutsu can affect beings without chakra networks, since Manda's kind is blatantly stated to predate the Divine Tree, which supposedly brought chakra to Earth. But here's the problem. This argument blatantly ignores several key pieces of lore, as well as Fukasaku's explanation of Sage Mode, where he explicitly says that sage creatures generate chakra just like humans do, and then enhance that chakra with natural energy to perform sage jutsu. So no, sage creatures do not have some entirely alien biology, and yes, they absolutely possess chakra networks just like the humans of the Naruto world. Additionally, this argument shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what chakra actually is, since despite what people interpret from Kaguya's backstory, she did not introduce chakra to Earth in the sense of it being a brand new energy. All she actually did was consume the chakra fruit that the Earth had produced from life on the planet, giving her an insane amount of chakra that she would later pass down to her son, who taught other people how to use chakra. Therefore, the fact of the matter is that the raw building blocks of chakra, which are spiritual and mental energy, already existed in living organisms long before Kaguya arrived on Earth. With this being confirmed by Amado, who states that the function of the Divine Tree is to drain all chakra from a planet in order to generate a fruit, 100% proving that chakra exists in all living things across the Naruto-verse, including alien planets. So it couldn't have not existed within sage creatures since before Kaguya got there. Now I know all of this may sound a little complicated, but it really isn't. When you strip away all the fan theories and get down to the mechanics as shown in the series, the conclusion becomes pretty obvious. If an opponent doesn't have chakra, and more importantly doesn't have a chakra network integrated with their sensory organs, then it's biologically impossible for any genjutsu to affect them. That said, some of you may be thinking, well, that's cool and all, Sage, but does any of this even matter when there's versus equalization? And honestly, I don't really know the answer to that just yet, because it's something I plan to cover in a separate video entirely. What I can say for now though is that it largely comes down to your own personal preference, how you approach cross-verse matchups, and whether or not you believe abilities should be equalized in function, or left true to their native mechanics. But with everything I've laid out in this video, I think it's pretty safe to say that without chakra, Genjutsu simply doesn't work.